Yeah.
All right, so that's okay. It's okay.
No, it started, right? Anything you can do to make me look less like Harry Hill would be appreciated with the editing.
Well, you could ditch the bins this morning.
I'm blind.
You made his best effort to look like him.
I'm blind as a bat, and my hair's folding out. So
Speaking of bats, we had any bats for breakfast this morning? Speaking of bats,
so subject. let's try not to dive into the virus.
So anyway, it's nice to speak to you. So it's long. Well, it's probably a couple of years since we've actually seen. Obviously, with COVID has kind of like cocked things up for it. How are things with yourself at CIMC?
Yeah, all good. Yeah, we've actually had quite a productive last sort of 12 to 15 months. Yeah. Despite everything, we got the factory up and running again quite efficiently after a lot of checks and everything else. And yeah, we've got a wide range.
Down, did you basically go into quarantine and shut down like everybody else?
No, the factory, because the virus actually started and almost finished in the city where the factory is over Chinese New Year, there was almost no impact on the factory apart from a staged return to work. So they phased people's return to the factory back in. So it's just incredible fortuitous timing, I guess, in that respect. But yeah.
You're quite unique at CIMC because I remember, right, are you the largest modular manufacturer? I think if not, you're one of the largest.
I guess it's how you quantify it. So if you think about the size of our manufacturing facility, I would say it's the largest in the world. If you think of our global reach in terms of the different sectors and regions that we operate in, we're certainly probably the most prolific pioneers of modular. But there are some good competition and growing competition that are doing great things, and we want to see that as well. You know, we want to have a challenge in a similar way to BMW and Mercedes. They just made each other better over the years, right? So
well, I've had a few trouble with my Merc, but anyway, that's a story for another day. Your system is it unique? I've never seen anybody else do it in the steel containers that you do, the 20-foot and the 40-foot shipping containers. Is that unique to CIMC?
So we were it's our intellectual property, right, for the connection detail. So even though they look like steel containers, and we use some similar components, the whole process is totally different because we use construction materials, right? So it's a fully welded steel cage. You know, so you've got the corrugated skin that you'd see on a shipping container, but the material's different because it's construction codes for different regions, right? So
I was going to say, because I figured that CIMC must be a big noise, because if you remember, me and Ethan kind of rocked up at the port. We got on the ferry from Hong Kong to come and see you. We got out of the port, and Ethan, being Ethan, like, you know, forgetful numpty, hadn't bothered to fill in any of the forms to get us through.
That's right, yeah.
You remember that? We just turned up with our passport, like Phileas Fogg, just going to walk into like communist China and go, we're here to see CIMC. Anyway, a couple of phone calls, and it's also this sorted. So I guess you must have a lot of clout in that neck of the woods.
Well, to be honest with you, we're part of a massive group, right? We're a $13 billion group and growing. So, you know, it's ridiculous sometimes to think that we're a small division in part of this huge group. In comparison to other countries, we'd be dominating the market, right, in terms of size, capability, capacity, and everything. But yeah.
So what did you first think when, I'm not sure whether it was Capita, the consultants, or whoever did the specification, said we're going to be fitting this skirting heating into all these student units rather than a panel heater? Because I know you're a bit kind of skeptical at first.
To be honest with you, yeah, and I think I voiced my concerns to you a couple of times before we got going, right? Yeah. Because I just thought it was an MEP consultant's wet dream, I'll be quite frank with you, because I've used systems before and they weren't, I was always skeptical about the appearance and the performance and how we're going to test this, because all the systems I used before seem to be very clunky, not very well engineered, no kind of robust testing or training involved. So I was really pleasantly surprised. First of all, that you rocked up with Ethan to help us with the training, because we really didn't know what we were doing at the very outset.
Yeah.
But I was definitely converted by the end, and I've got to say it didn't take much. When I just saw how simple the installation was, how good it looked when it was installed, and the support that you guys provided to the team in the factory to help them develop the QC process was fantastic. Yeah.
Well, obviously, it was a concern for us because it was quite a bizarre setup. If you remember, we shipped everything from our factory in Manchester all the way to Zhongshan.
Yeah.
We built it into these units. We got shipped all the way back to Glasgow on a container, and then hoisted into place, all 500 units of it. And we thought, well, this is a potential recipe for disaster. So obviously, we had to hold your hand for those first few. But your guys picked it up pretty quickly. I think you remember this. They soon got in the swing of it, and Ethan's job was done in a day. I think he spent the rest of the time in the pub.
Yeah, well, part of the time, yeah, I didn't want to tell you that because wasn't sure you were aware of it. But no, he got through the training really quickly. I mean, it helped. It wasn't overcomplicated design or anything. And I think the biggest problem we have, if memory serves me right, was with when we were pressurizing the system. And you were on a jog, and it must have been bugging you that you couldn't solve it. And I was trying to describe what I thought was going on. And he said, I was out on a jog and I figured it out. He said, there's something wrong with your pump because it's like skipping a beat or something. And it's acting like a sledgehammer, right? And it was popping the ends off the... And I thought, here we go.
When you tell me that the ends were coming off on the return manifolds, and it's like, we've done 50,000 systems, or 35,000 systems at the time. This can't be happening 10,000 miles away. What is the chances of that? We do it all day, every day, never a problem. And when you describe your testing, I think you was using like a pump to pressurize a system. And I reckoned that unlike a hand pump, which is like a steady increase in pressure, it was probably shooting well over 10 or 15 bar on each of those pulses and knocking it out with a hammer.
And it wasn't even, you wouldn't even have recognized it visually or audibly, unless you had a very finely tuned ear. But when you thought about what was happening, it had to be some kind of build-up of pressure somewhere. And it turned out to be a rogue pump that, if a memory serves me right, wasn't calibrated as well. So actually, we did a number on our QC team because that was causing a huge problem, and we were terrified at the time because we thought if it's a product failure, then we've got big problems. As it turns out,
it was. Luckily, I read all those. I stole all those Sherlock Holmes books from the school library when I was a kid. Whatever eliminate the impossible, whatever remains, whatever improbable must be the truth. So we got to the bottom of it in the end. And I don't think after that you missed a beat, did you?
No, it was smooth as anything after that. We just needed to iron out that. It was in the early modules. It was isolated to a couple of modules, and then once we got going again, we never had the same problem. And I think the pressure we were testing it to was quite high as well. We didn't have. I don't think we had any leaks on the system in China, unless it was, like a rogue workmanship or something like that. And then, when it went to site as well, I'll be honest with you, Martin, we have lots of, we have some of the big players in terms of air conditioning companies. I won't mention their names, but other contractors send the technical teams over, and I'm not exaggerating just because I'm speaking to you now, but we always end up having them to go troubleshoot something on site, and they'll swear blind it's nothing to do with their product, and lo and behold, sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. I didn't hear anything about the skirting. We didn't hear any issues whatsoever, and we do quite a rigorous joint inspection. And I know Ethan went to site because you were fitting in the traditional build, right?
That's right. There's another block that was like brick and block construction, so we did that bit as well, the modular. And to be honest, there was more issues on the brick and block site because, of course, they had some area arts plumbers on some of the jobs, just not bothering to read the instructions. But again, all sorted out within a matter of minutes. But the 500 that you did, there was not a single leak, not a single one. And even being hoisted into position with those big cranes, you'd think even a radiator can sometimes get dislodged during the transportation and shipping. So we were really, really, really pleased with the result.
No, I mean, the system's quite robust, but because they look like shipping containers, some of the stevedores have a tendency to think they can touch park them. So sometimes they do get banged around a little bit. So I guess I was a little bit nervous of how they'd travel as well. But yeah, when we did the joint inspections, I don't even remember one issue. I don't remember ThermaSkirt being mentioned again, if I'm honest.
Which is a good thing, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So, and I think that it was fully occupied when it was completed and seems a very successful.
I keep going then for modular because it seems to be sort of like fits and starts in the UK. We're not, there's a lot of good things being spoke about it, but it hasn't really seemed to have taken off in the way that a lot of people envisage. How are you finding it around the world with the residential side?
So we're not just doing residential, we're doing hotels, prisons, student accommodation. So yeah, there's obviously a demand for it, but it's the same. It's almost the same problems everywhere. There's a shortage of skilled labour, costs of construction are going up, etc. But to get real traction across the industry, you've got to have like stable supply or stable manufacturers. And what you've got now is an eclectic mix of startups who are visionaries, maybe very smart engineers, but they lack experience or education. I'm not sure whether in architectural or engineering, structural engineering courses that they're teaching about modular construction. So there's a lack of education, and we find we're constantly having to educate people about our system.
It's more like manufacturing than building. It's more like putting a car together on a production line than it is.
It is, yeah. And I'd say we're a manufacturer, and a lot of our competitors are probably construction under a roof, right? Because it's such a process-driven environment, whereas a lot of people are transitioning from construction to the modular manufacturing, and their approach is similar to a construction site, which is a less controlled environment, right? But it's totally process-driven what we do. Yeah.
But it lose a lot of money. Like there's obviously a very high-profile case in the UK. I think they've sunk 100 million into the factory, and they've produced less than 50 units. So sometimes you get the bad publicity as well as the positive.
But I think there's a mismatch between investors' expectations and people's capability, and there's not enough experienced modular experts in the industry, right? Because it's relatively new and it's never really got the traction that it probably will over the next 5 to 10 years. I can't see another solution.
I mean, obviously, since we did the big job with you, we've always been pushing hard into that sector. I mean, funnily enough, Ethan is not on the call today. He obviously wanted to have a chat with you, but he's actually talking to another big manufacturer, modular, in Vietnam as we speak. We have to schedule our appointment to today, and he's actually talking to somebody in Vietnam. So we're getting sort of stuff from all over the globe at the moment, New Zealand, Australia, etc. And a few sniffs in the UK, but such a lot of business for our product overseas, which is remarkable, really.
Yeah, no, the modular manufacturers are springing up everywhere, and what's happening is in a lot of regions like Hong Kong and mainland China, the building codes were never tailored towards offsite manufacture, or certainly not volumetric construction, what we do. So what's been happening over the last few years is that the code and the building regulations are catching up. So you've still got more hurdles to clear because they're not standard assemblies of walls and floors and ceilings. So we have to do a lot of testing to validate if there's not a code already existing, and sometimes that test doesn't even exist. So we're pioneering to help get Hong Kong Construction Industry Council through the regulatory changes and for domestic market as well. So
and obviously the fire safety. I mean, obviously fire safety is a big thing in the UK at the moment because of what happened at Grenfell. So I think the natural methodology that you employ is probably naturally a much more fireproof construction when you're finished. I would guess.
To be honest with you, Martin, fire's always number one. You know, clients emphasize it to us all the time. We don't need it emphasizing, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't say we're blasé about our system, but it's quite unique that if you think about each module, because it's steel structure, it has to be protected from fire for 1 hour, every room. On traditional building, you'll get a cluster of rooms that are protected for 1 hour in a compartment, but our individual modules are fire rated to 1 hour.
Yeah, like the bedroom is, for example, as a module, has got a 1 hour rating, and the lounge in the same apartment, if you like, has got a 1 hour rating. So the compartmentalisation is probably greater than it would be in traditional construction.
It is, yeah. And then obviously we've got consultants overseas who are helping us in the UK, architects, structural engineers, with the updated legislation, because there's implications for the cavity system and the paint system. So we've got people working closely with consultants to make sure we don't miss any tricks like that. Yeah.
So when you're back in Oldham, I know it's you know stomping ground.
I don't know, to be honest. I'm hoping this year, but
All right, okay.
I'm still not sure. I kind of resigned myself not this year because it didn't seem as though the governments were cooperating with each other with the vaccines. But it seems like the US and China are now starting discussions to cooperate and recognise each other's vaccines.
You had a jab, have you?
No, but I'll probably go for the Chinese one in the next few weeks because I want to go travelling in China as well. So
your mum's still in Oldham, is she?
Yeah, she is. Yeah,
she had a jab.
She has. Yeah. She's one of the first.
Yeah, well, my mum and dad, I guess. Did she have the Astra or did she have the Pfizer? Don't you know?
Oh, I should know. I don't know. I think it was not the AstraZeneca one anyway.
All right. Well, to be honest, I had the Astra and it's not done me any harm.
Yeah, did you? Jason, the general manager of the UK office, had the AstraZeneca, and he said he felt groggy for a day or two, but fine after that.
I felt a bit flu, but I had the virus in October last year, so I expected some kind of response. But when you come back, when you're over, I mean, I'm not sure that we'll be over to see you anytime soon, unless we get another couple of jobs in the pipeline with you, fingers crossed. Have you come over? You're more than welcome, obviously, to go out for a pint because the pubs will be open.
Yeah, let's all talk.
All right. We'll catch you very soon then, Paul. But listen, thanks very much for taking the time to speak.
No worries. Cheers, man.
Look after yourself.
Yeah, you too. See ya.